The crystalline dome of observation platform Epsilon 12 gleamed against the darkness of space, its transparent sections offering an unobstructed view of the lethal Class 5 world, designated XJ-272 below. Inside the platform's main observation deck, 3 xenobiologists huddled around a holographic display, their diverse physiologies highlighting the varied membership of the concordat of sentient species. Another Vexurian Shadowstalker sighting, announced Dr. Entha, her tentacle-like appendages dancing over the control panel. The Aquarian's translucent skin shimmered with bioluminescent patterns, expressing her excitement. Northern Continent Sector 7-3. Qual, a towering insectoid, whose chitinous exoskeleton clicked softly as he moved, leaned forward to examine the readings. Magnificent specimen, easily 4 meters from snout to tail. Energy signature matches the one nicknamed Midnight by our research team. The third observer, Elzik, floated slightly above the platform floor, his gaseous form contained within a specially designed environmental suit. The Nebulian's voice emerged from a speech synthesizer at the suit's center. Midnight has become something of a legend among our research cohort. 17 confirmed kills of other apex predators, yet never once captured on our monitoring equipment during the act. A perfect hunter. Speaking of perfect, Dr. Entha said, did the Academy approve our request for a survey drone in Sector 7-3? Qual's mandibles clicked in amusement. Denied, of course. XJ-272 maintains its no-landing classification. The atmospheric composition alone would dissolve most survey drones in minutes. A shame. Elzik sighed, his gaseous body swirling in disappointment within his containment suit. We'll continue as always, observe from orbit, maintain protocols, document patterns. At least we, Dr. Entha, stopped abruptly, her bioluminescent patterns flashing in alarm. Sensors are picking up another life form, moving toward the Shadowstalker's position. Impossible, Qual responded, his compound eyes flaring. Nothing approaches a Vexurian Shadowstalker voluntarily. Focusing sensors, Elzik announced. The holographic display zoomed in, revealing a bipedal figure moving with purpose through the dense vegetation of XJ-272's northern continent. It's a human. The 3 xenobiologists froze, momentarily stunned into silence. Run diagnostics on the sensors, Dr. Entha ordered finally. No sentient would be foolish enough to land on XJ-272, much less approach a Shadowstalker. Diagnostics confirm optimal functioning, Qual reported after a moment. That is indeed a human moving directly toward the apex predator's position. Fascinating and idiotic in equal measure. Elzik commented, his containment suit vibrating with excitement. Perfectly consistent with human behavioral patterns. The holographic display sharpened, revealing more details of the human figure. Male, approximately 1.9 meters tall, wearing a modified environment suit with Terran Defense Force insignia, partially visible beneath layers of adaptive camouflage. A compact pack hung at his side and he carried no visible weapons. Access Concordat database, Dr. Entha instructed the platform's AI. Cross-reference with TDF personnel records. Who is this human with a death wish? After a brief pause, the AI responded. Identity confirmed: Alexander Novak, former Terran Defense Force combat medic. Specialized in xenobiology field medicine during the Proxima Centauri conflict. Honorably discharged 3 standard years ago. Current status: independent contractor. How did a human even reach XJ-272? Qual wondered. The planetary defense grid should have detected any approaching vessel. Humans have a talent for circumventing systems designed to protect them from their own recklessness, Elzik noted. The question now is whether we're about to witness a scientific miracle or a messy suicide. On the display, Alexander Novak continued his steady approach toward the Shadowstalker's position, moving with a confident grace that belied the deadly nature of his destination. Alert orbital security, Dr. Entha decided. Regardless of the outcome, this human has violated at least 17 Concordat protocols. Alerting security now, Qual confirmed. though I suspect by the time they respond, this situation will have resolved itself. Naturally. The three xenobiologists focused intently on the holographic display, unwilling to miss a second of the approaching encounter. In their centuries of combined research, none had ever witnessed a sentient, deliberately approaching a Vexurian shadow stalker in the wild. The scientific implications alone were momentous, regardless of the human's survival chances. As Alexander Novak closed the distance to the shadow stalker's position, the holographic display split to show both figures. The shadow stalker Midnight lay partially concealed in a rocky outcropping, its massive obsidian-scaled body barely visible among the shadows. Only the creature's rhythmic breathing indicated it was alive. The shadow stalker appears injured. Elzik observed his gaseous form swirling with curiosity. Energy readings show a disruption in its bioelectric field, eastern flank, just below the secondary spinal ridge. Plasma burn. Qual confirmed his mandibles clicking rapidly. Likely from illegal poachers. The Concordat banned hunting expeditions to XJ272 after the third extinction event. On the display, Alexander Novak slowed his approach, moving with exaggerated care as he closed the final meters between himself and the injured apex predator. Instead of the expected attack, Midnight remained motionless, its multifaceted eyes tracking the human's movement with predatory focus. The shadow stalker is aware of the human's presence but isn't attacking. Dr. Entha noted her bioluminescent patterns, pulsing with scientific excitement. This contradicts every recorded instance of human-predator interaction on XJ272. The human is communicating, Qual said incredulously, as Alexander began making a series of soft clicking sounds remarkably similar to the shadow stalker's own vocalizations. Not just communicating, Elzik corrected. Our translator algorithms indicate he's mimicking territorial non-aggression sounds. Auditory submission patterns historically only observed between members of the same shadow stalker family group. The three xenobiologists watched in stunned silence as Alexander Novak slowly knelt beside the massive predator, placing one hand flat on the ground before him, in a gesture that even the observing scientists recognized as deliberate vulnerability. He's signaling submissive intent, Dr. Entha whispered, unnecessarily, lowering her voice as if the subjects of their observation might overhear. Fascinating approach. The apex predator is responding, Qual noted, as Midnight's multifaceted eyes blinked in a distinct pattern before the creature exhaled a soft rumble that vibrated the sensors of the observation platform. Acceptance patterns, Elzik confirmed. The Vexurian shadow stalker is acknowledging the human submission display. This is unprecedented in cross-species interaction studies. Alexander Novak moved closer now within striking distance of the injured predator. With deliberate movements, he unslung the compact pack from his side and placed it on the ground before him. The pack expanded, revealing a field surgery kit with components clearly modified for xenobiological application. He's preparing to treat the shadow stalker's wound. Dr. Entha realized her appendages trembling with scientific excitement. This human intends to perform field surgery on an apex predator capable of disemboweling him with a single swipe. Human medical interface detected, announced the platform's AI scanning components. The holographic display enhanced, showing the contents of Alexander's medical kit in detail. Specialized injectors, regenerative foam canisters, nutrient cocktails calibrated for non-Terran physiology, and neural blockers designed specifically for Vexurian nervous systems. This human didn't stumble upon an injured predator, Qual stated, his compound eyes widening in realization. He came prepared specifically to treat a Vexurian shadow stalker. The question is, how did he know where to find it? And why would he risk his life to help it? On the display, Alexander continued his preparations, arranging his medical supplies with practiced efficiency, while maintaining a constant stream of soft vocalizations that seemed to keep the massive predator calm. The shadow stalker's breathing had steadied, and its previously tense musculature had visibly relaxed. Is it possible this human has encountered this specific shadow stalker before? Dr. Entha wondered aloud. The preparation level and the predator's acceptance suggest a pre-existing relationship. Searching concordant incident reports, the platform's AI announced. 3 instances of illegal landing on XJ-272 recorded in the past standard year, all attributed to unidentified vessels evading planetary defense grid. No confirmed visual identification of perpetrators. So our medic may have been making house calls. Elzik observed his containment suit vibrating with amusement. Yet another example of humans disregarding interstellar law in pursuit of personal interest. Or scientific breakthrough. Dr. Entha countered her bioluminescent patterns, shifting to indicate contemplation. The Concordate's position on human exceptionalism has been a topic of debate since their inclusion in interstellar society. The discussion halted as Alexander began the actual treatment process. With astonishing gentleness, he applied a neural blocker to the area surrounding the plasma burn. The shadow stalker flinched momentarily, then relaxed as the anesthetic took effect. The human proceeded to clean the wound with antiseptic foam, all while maintaining a constant stream of soothing vocalizations. His technique is impeccable, Qual noted with reluctant admiration. The human maintains perfect pressure on the neural junction points while administering treatment. Vitals monitoring indicates the human's stress levels are elevated, but well within functional parameters, Elzik added. Heart rate consistent with skilled professional operation, not fear response. As they watched, Alexander began applying regenerative foam to the cleansed wound. The specialized compound, typically reserved for emergency trauma care in concordant medical facilities, adhered perfectly to the shadow stalker's obsidian scales. The human then withdrew a small device from his kit and activated it, producing a focused beam that accelerated the foam's bonding process. That's military-grade regenerative technology, Dr. Entha said, her appendages stiffening in surprise. Restricted to concordant emergency response teams and Terran Defense Force combat medics, Qual finished for her. Which our human formerly was. The question becomes, how did he retain access to such equipment after discharge? Perhaps more importantly, Elzik interjected, how did he modify it for perfect compatibility with Vexurian physiology? The calibration alone would require extensive knowledge of shadow stalker biochemistry, information not readily available outside top-tier concordant research facilities. The treatment continued for nearly an hour, with Alexander methodically addressing not only the plasma burn, but also several other minor injuries the scientists hadn't initially detected. Throughout the process, Midnight remained remarkably cooperative, adjusting position when indicated by gentle pressure from the human's hands and accepting various injections without protest. Orbital security vessels approaching, Shu announced the platform's AI. Estimated arrival, 17 minutes. They're too late to prevent whatever this human intends, Dr. Entha noted. The treatment is nearly complete. On the display, Alexander was finishing the final touches on the regenerative foam application. As he packed away his equipment, he reached into a separate compartment of his medical kit and retrieved what appeared to be a standard Terran ration pack. Opening it, he extracted a small morsel of preserved protein, and to the absolute astonishment of the observing scientists, held it out in his palm toward the shadow stalker. He's offering food to an apex predator, Qual stated, his voice flat with disbelief. A creature known to consume sentience whole is being hand-fed by a human. With delicate precision that defied its fearsome reputation, Midnight extended its primary sensory appendage and gently lifted the morsel from Alexander's palm. The predator consumed the offering with obvious satisfaction, a deep rumbling emanating from its thoracic cavity. That sound, Dr. Entha whispered, is that a contentment vocalization, Elzik confirmed. Colloquially known among researchers as a purr, though that's an imprecise term. It's typically only observed between Shadowstalker Dam and offspring during early development phases. Alexander smiled, an expression the observing scientists easily recognized, despite their physiological differences from humans, and offered another morsel to the predator. This time, Midnight took the offering directly from the human's fingers, displaying remarkable control over its feeding mechanisms. "The level of trust demonstrated here is unprecedented," Dr. Entha noted. "This contradicts every established principle of predator-prey dynamics in the Concordate's scientific corpus." Orbital Security has deployed emergency response shuttles, the platform's AI announced. Containment protocols initiated. Surface teams will attempt capture of both the human and the Shadowstalker. "That seems unwise," Qual commented mildly. "Attempting to separate these two may produce unpredictable results." The holographic display expanded to show 3 security shuttles descending toward the northern continent. Each vessel bristled with capture technology, neural disruptors, containment fields, and tranquilizer deployment systems designed for use against Class 5 lifeforms. On the surface, Alexander Novak's posture changed subtly as he detected the approaching vessels. Without apparent alarm, he placed a hand on Midnight's flank and leaned close to the predator's sensory organ cluster. The Shadowstalker's massive head swiveled toward the sky, tracking the descent of the security shuttles. "Fascinating," Elzik commented. "The human appears to be communicating threat awareness to the predator. Note how both are now exhibiting synchronized alertness postures." "Security teams are deploying surface containment units," the AI reported. "Standard protocol: immobilize, isolate, extract." The first security shuttle landed approximately 100 meters from Alexander and Midnight's position. 6 Phalanxian security officers emerged, their feline forms encased in protective containment suits. Each carried standard Concordate restraint technology. "Attention, human, designate Alexander Novak," announced the Phalanxian team leader, his amplified voice easily picked up by the observation platform's sensors. "By authority of the Concordate of Sentient Species, you are ordered to step away from the Class 5 predator and submit to escort off-world. The Shadowstalker will be contained and relocated to a protected reserve." Alexander's response was not what any observer expected. Instead of complying or even acknowledging the security team, he calmly finished packing his medical kit, secured it to his environment suit, and placed one hand firmly on Midnight's uninjured flank. The Shadowstalker rose to its full height, an imposing 4 meters of obsidian-scaled predatory perfection, with the human standing confidently beside it. "Repeat, step away from the Class 5 predator." The Phalanxian leader ordered, a note of uncertainty now detectable in his voice. "This is for your protection, human." Alexander finally acknowledged the security team with a simple headshake before speaking loud enough for the platform's sensors to detect. "Midnight goes where I go. I go where Midnight goes. Your containment efforts will fail and someone might get hurt. I suggest you stand down. This human is either insane or possesses information we lack." Qual observed his mandibles clicking rapidly in agitation. "Security teams are activating neural disruptors. This will not end well." The security team deployed a standard containment pattern surrounding Alexander and Midnight, while activating neural disruptor fields designed to disorient Class 5 predators, long enough for capture teams to apply physical restraints. The humming fields expanded toward the human-predator pair, creating visible distortions in the air. What happened next defied every prediction the observing scientists might have made. As the disruptor fields reached them, Midnight moved with blinding speed, positioning its massive body between Alexander and the advancing security team. Simultaneously, Alexander withdrew a small device from his medical kit and activated it, producing a focused electromagnetic pulse that disrupted the neural field generators. The human possesses countermeasures against standard Concordate containment technology. Dr. Entha stated, her bioluminescent patterns expressing astonishment. And the Shadowstalker is protecting him. Security teams advancing with physical restraints, the AI reported. Second and third shuttles deploying additional personnel. On the surface, the confrontation escalated as more security officers approached. Midnight issued a warning vocalization that vibrated the platform's sensors, while Alexander maintained his position beside the Predator, one hand still resting casually on its flank. They're moving in synchronized defensive patterns, Elzik noted, with scientific fascination, overriding any concern for the security team's welfare. Look at the positioning. The human is covering the Shadow Stalker's injured side, while the Predator maintains optimal striking position to protect the human's vulnerable areas. Concordant security protocols do not account for cooperative human-predator defense strategies, Qual pointed out. The team leader should recognize the futility of standard containment approaches in this unprecedented scenario. The Phalanxian leader seemed to reach a similar conclusion. He signaled his team to halt their advance, then stepped forward alone, lowering his restraint equipment in a universal gesture of temporary non-aggression. Human designate Alexander Novak. The leader called, "This situation violates 17 separate concordant regulations. The Shadow Stalker is a protected apex predator. Your presence on XJ272 is unauthorized. Your interference with the natural order is—" Natural order. Alexander interrupted his voice, carrying clearly to the observation platform's sensors. Your concordant has categorized and classified everything in the galaxy into neat little boxes: predator and prey, sentient and non-sentient, safe and dangerous. The universe doesn't work that way. To emphasize his point, Alexander placed his palm flat against Midnight's flank in a gesture of absolute trust. The Shadow Stalker responded by lowering its massive head to the human's level and emitting a deep, resonant purr that registered clearly on all monitoring equipment. Connection. Alexander continued. Respect, consent. These transcend your classification systems. Midnight allowed me to help because I asked permission. I approached with respect. I offered assistance without demanding submission. The Shadow Stalker will be relocated to a protected reserve, the Phalanxian leader insisted, though, with noticeably less conviction. It is protocol. Midnight stays with me, Alexander stated firmly. I stay with Midnight. We travel together or not at all. Impossible, the leader responded. No sentient can bond with a Class 5 predator. The risk assessment alone would— Look at us, Alexander interrupted, gesturing to himself and the massive predator beside him. Really look. What do you see, predator and prey, or something your protocols can't classify? The security team leader hesitated, his feline features expressing the conflict between training and the evidence before him. In that moment of hesitation, Alexander made his move, not an attack, but a demonstration. With deliberate slowness, he turned his back to the security team, completely exposing himself to potential restraint, and leaned his body against Midnight's massive flank. The Shadow Stalker curled protectively around the human, maintaining visual contact with the security team while emitting a continuous, low-frequency purr. Consent, Alexander repeated. No separation. The standoff continued for several tense moments before the Phalanxian leader finally lowered his restraint equipment completely and signaled his team to stand down. This situation requires consultation with higher authorities, the leader announced. We will maintain observation positions until further instructions are received. Observe all you want, Alexander replied amicably. Learn something new. That's what scientists are supposed to do, isn't it? In the observation platform, the three xenobiologists exchanged glances of scientific amazement, tempered with professional embarrassment. The human directly challenged the foundation of concordant xenobiological classification. Dr. Entha noted her appendages gesturing in scientific excitement, and provided living proof of his alternative theory. A single case study doesn't invalidate established scientific consensus, Qual responded, though his mandibles clicked uncertainly. This could be an anomalous relationship not indicative of broader species capabilities. Then explain the physiological synchronization. Elzik challenged his gaseous form, swirling rapidly within his containment suit. The human and the shadow stalker demonstrate mirrored respiratory patterns, complementary, autonomic responses, and cooperative defense strategies that suggest deep neurological attunement. The security team is establishing a perimeter, the AI reported. Concordat High Council has been notified of the situation, advisory panel being assembled. On the surface, Alexander and Midnight had settled into a relaxed position against a rocky outcropping. The human continued to monitor the predator's healing wound, occasionally applying additional regenerative agents from his medical kit. The security team maintained their observation positions at a respectful distance, weapons and restraint equipment lowered but ready. The human is offering the security team opportunity for scientific observation, Dr. Entha realized. He's deliberately demonstrating interspecies cooperation techniques. Accessing Terran Defense Force personnel records, the AI announced. Alexander Novak served as xenobiology field medic during the Proxima Centauri conflict, specialized in establishing medical support relationships with non-Terran species. 27 confirmed instances of successful treatment of wounded Concordat allies, classified as non-approach species. So the human has history of crossing interspecies boundaries, Qual noted. But shadow stalkers aren't merely non-approach. They're apex predators with neurological programming specifically evolved to view all other complex life forms as either threats or food sources. Evidently, that programming can be overridden under the right circumstances, Elzik countered. The question becomes, is this capability unique to this particular human or indicative of broader human potential? Incoming transmission from Concordat High Council, the AI announced. Virtual emergency symposium being convened. 17 systems leading xenobiologists requesting participation from this observation team. Accept transmission, Dr. Entha ordered. Prepare complete sensor logs for sharing. The holographic display expanded, showing the faces and forms of the Concordats' most distinguished xenobiological researchers. Central among them was grand theorist Medusan, the Valerian philosopher-scientist whose work on interspecies dynamics had formed the foundation of Concordat classification systems for over 50 standard years. Observation Platform Epsilon 12. Medusan began his crystalline form, shimmering with intellectual intensity. Your preliminary report indicates a situation of unprecedented scientific significance. Please provide visual confirmation of the human-predator interaction. Dr. Entha transmitted the live feed from the surface, showing Alexander and Midnight resting peacefully, while the security team maintained their observation perimeter. As the assembled scientists watched, the human stood and stretched, prompting the massive shadow stalker to rise alongside him. Together, they began walking toward a nearby water source, moving with synchronized steps that spoke of long familiarity. Impossible, muttered several of the observing scientists, their various physiologies expressing disbelief in species-specific ways. Not impossible. Grand theorist Medusan corrected his crystalline form, pulsing with intense thought patterns. Merely catastrophically in error of our established understanding. We are witnessing the failure of an entire classification paradigm. What do you mean, grand theorist? Asked Dr. Entha. For 50 standard years, I have championed the three-tier classification system that forms the basis of all Concordat xenobiology, Medusan explained. Predator-prey and parallel evolutionary tracks, each with its own immutable behavioral constants. This human has demonstrated that these constants are in fact variables. Perhaps this is an anomaly, suggested one of the other scientists, a quanticle whose mathematical approach to biology was renowned throughout the Concordat. One example doesn't invalidate the entire system. Searching historical records, the AI announced. 273 instances of unusual human-predator interactions documented in Concordat archives, all previously classified as temporary aberrations or statistical outliers. Recategorizing data according to current observations suggests a pattern previously overlooked. It seems, Medusan said with a tinge of scientific humility rarely heard from the grand theorist, that we have been systematically disregarding evidence that contradicted our established paradigm. A fundamental error in scientific methodology. On the surface, Alexander and Midnight had reached the water source. The human knelt beside the liquid pool, using a portable scanner to test its composition, before nodding in apparent satisfaction. The shadow stalker drank deeply, while Alexander filled a container from his pack. Their ease with each other, the casual proximity that defied every established principle of predator-prey dynamics, continued to astonish the observing scientists. "We require a new classification," Medusan announced to the assembled symposium. "A designation for species capable of transcending traditional predator-prey boundaries. I propose the term bridge species organisms, with the neurological flexibility to form cooperative relationships across traditionally opposed biological imperatives." "And humans would be the first officially recognized bridge species?" Quall asked. "The evidence suggests they have always been one," Medusan acknowledged. "Our failure was enforcing them into our existing classification system, rather than recognizing their unique capabilities." The discussion continued for hours, as the xenobiologists debated the implications of what they were witnessing. Meanwhile, on the surface of XJ272, Alexander and Midnight completed their rest period and began moving purposefully toward the interior of the continent, the security team following at a respectful distance. "They appear to have a destination in mind," Dr. Entha noted. "Platform sensors indicate they're heading toward a region with high concentrations of injured apex predators, likely victims of the same poachers who wounded Midnight." "The human intends to treat them," Elzik realized. "He's using his bond with the Shadow Stalker to access predators that would normally be unapproachable." Concordat High Council has issued new directives, the AI announced. XJ272's no-landing classification has been updated with an exception clause, except humans, bring one if you must. Security teams instructed to maintain observation, only no containment efforts permitted, without clear evidence of ecosystem damage. A remarkably rapid policy shift. Quall commented, his mandibles clicking in amusement. The Concordat rarely moves so quickly on classification revisions. "The evidence was undeniable," Dr. Entha pointed out. "And the potential applications of this bridge species concept extend far beyond this single planet. Imagine the research possibilities if humans could facilitate safe interaction with previously unstudied predatory species throughout Concordat space." The symposium concluded with a formal acknowledgement of the paradigm shift and the establishment of a new research initiative focused on human interspecies facilitation capabilities. Grand theorist Medusan, in a final statement that would be quoted in xenobiology textbooks for generations to come, said simply, "Today, we have been reminded of the true purpose of science, not to categorize the universe, but to continually discover how little we truly understand it." As the transmission ended, the three xenobiologists of observation platform Epsilon 12 returned their attention to the surface of XJ272, where Alexander and Midnight continued their journey into the continental interior. "The Concordat is creating a new diplomatic position," Elzik noted, accessing the updated information stream. "Interspecies relationship facilitators, humans specifically trained to bridge communication gaps between Concordat members and non-sentient species. An elegant solution to several persistent diplomatic challenges," Quall acknowledged. "The hive colonies of Sector 8-7 have refused Concordat membership for centuries due to our inability to effectively communicate with their symbiotic guardian species. All because we classified those guardians as predators and their hive partners as prey," Dr. Entha added, "when in reality, their relationship may be more akin to what we're observing between Alexander and Midnight." 30 standard days later, the AI announced, as the holographic display shifted to show a new scene. The time skip function of the observation platform allowed the scientists to review ongoing developments without real-time monitoring constraints. The display showed Alexander Novak standing at the entrance of a massive cave complex, surrounded by no fewer than 7 Vexurian shadowstalkers of varying sizes and colorations. Midnight remained closest to the human, its massive form seeming even more impressive in contrast to its kin. Behind them, a group of concordant officials and scientists cautiously approached, led by a Phalancian in diplomatic attire rather than containment armor. Predator Conservation Initiative, the AI explained, accessing updated records. Led by Alexander Novak and facilitated by the Shadowstalker designated Midnight. Current success metrics exceed previous conservation efforts by 78.3%. Poaching incidents reduced by 92.6%. The human is using his bond with Midnight to establish a protected territory for the Shadowstalkers, Dr. Entha observed. And the Concordant is supporting the initiative rather than interfering. Not merely supporting, Qual corrected, noting details in the display. That's Ambassador Velcharan of the Phalancian Diplomatic Corps. The Concordant is establishing formal relations with the Shadowstalkers through human intermediaries. The display shifted again, showing multiple sites across XJ272, where humans, now easily identified by their distinctive environment suits, worked alongside various predatory species. Some were treating injuries, others were mapping territories, and still others appeared to be facilitating controlled interactions between concordant scientists and previously unapproachable life forms. Tourist programs. Elzik noted with amusement as the display showed a group of concordant civilians being escorted through a Shadowstalker territory by a human guide with a juvenile stalker at their side. The economic implications alone will revolutionize concordant approaches to Class 5 worlds. Joint hunting expeditions, Qual added, as the display shifted to show humans and Shadowstalkers coordinating to track illegal poachers across XJ272's harsh landscape. The predators provide tracking capabilities, the humans provide strategic thinking and technology. Shared campsites, Dr. Entha observed in the final scene, where Alexander and Midnight rested beside a portable shelter surrounded by other human-predator pairs. Perfect mutual protection arrangement, the humans monitor for technological threats, the predators for biological ones. The Midnight Paradigm, the AI stated, citing the newly published revision to concordant xenobiology textbooks. A fundamental restructuring of interspecies relationship theory based on consent, respect, and cooperative potential rather than evolutionary opposition. As the 3 xenobiologists of observation platform Epsilon 12 continued monitoring the evolving situation on XJ272, Dr. Entha recorded a final observation for the scientific record. It appears that in their reckless disregard for established classification systems, humans have accidentally discovered a universal truth we've overlooked for centuries. True strength lies not in dominating other species, but in forming alliances with them, even those we assumed could only ever be our enemies. The crystalline dome of the observation platform gleamed against the darkness of space, its transparent sections offering an unobstructed view of the lethal Class 5 world, below a world that, thanks to one human's compassion for an apex predator, would never again be classified as simply no landing, but rather as bring a human if you wish to visit. And somewhere on the northern continent, Alexander Novak placed his hand on Midnight's obsidian flank, felt the deep purr of contentment vibrate through his palm, and smiled at how easily trust could bridge the gap between worlds. Once you stopped trying to classify everything you met as either predator or prey, and started seeing the potential for connection instead. The Concordant would never be the same again. Neither would humanity's place within it. And that Alexander thought, as Midnight's massive head gently nudged his shoulder in affection, was exactly as it should be.